So you understand from the previous videos that culture is all about behavior, and that our behavior is heavily influenced by the norms that we pick up in our environment. So how can we create an environment or a culture that promotes the behaviors that we as leaders want and that most drive high performance? I'm glad you asked. Let me introduce you to the simple concept known as the power of fundamentals. Here's the idea in a nutshell. If we can articulate with tremendous clarity the behaviors that drive success in our organization, and we can create a structured, systematic way to teach and practice those behaviors over and over and over again, they're eventually going to be internalized by our people. Let me break that into its two parts and sort of unpack each one separately. Then I'll tie it all back together again for you. The first part of the equation is the importance of defining the culture that we want to build with more clarity than we've ever done before. While you've probably at some point written a vision, mission, and a set of core values, those statements are typically pretty vague and abstract, and they could be interpreted in so many different ways by so many of your different team members. Behaviors, though, because they're more action-oriented, are usually a lot easier for your team to understand and for your leaders to teach and coach. Here are some examples of behaviors that we teach in our own company, just to give you kind of a sense of what I mean by behaviors. Honor commitments. Practice blameless problem solving. Be a fanatic about response time. Look ahead and anticipate. Get clear on expectations. Do you see how much clearer these are than the typical nebulous words like quality, teamwork, service, respect? So the first thing we have to do is we've got to describe your culture in the form of the behaviors that most drive your success. I give those behaviors a name. I call them fundamentals because they're fundamental to success. Think about how in sports or music or dance or any other field of endeavor, there are key fundamentals that when practiced consistently lead to success. Same is true here. The second part of this concept is the notion of teaching and practicing the fundamentals with enough consistency that they become ingrained. The challenge, of course, is that while we all know how important practice is to success, most of us stink at sticking with things. We get bored or distracted and we lose our focus. So what's the solution? I call it rituals. Let me explain. See, a ritual, in the way that I'm using this word, is a behavior that we practice over and over and over again until it becomes almost automatic. You go to a ball game, we play the national anthem. You get up in the morning, you brush your teeth. Some people before a meal, they say a prayer. They're just routines that become habits. And the important thing is that once they become habits, they're no longer difficult to do. See, we don't struggle to brush our teeth in the morning. It's just what we do. See, here's how you can use this concept. Once you create your fundamentals, you roll them out to your team in highly interactive sessions, and then you begin to practice one fundamental each week through a series of rituals. Let me give you a simple example. In our company, every time we have a meeting, whether it's a department meeting, a project meeting, or even a Zoom meeting, the first agenda item of every meeting is the fundamental of the week. We'll spend the first maybe 3 to 5 minutes exploring different aspects of the fundamental, and then we move on with the rest of the meeting. Think of all the meetings that might take place throughout your organization in a given week. And imagine that if in every one of them you spent just a few minutes dialoguing about this week's fundamental. And next week, you do the same thing with the next fundamental, and so on until you get to the end of your list, and then you go back to the beginning, and you repeat the process over and over and over and over again forever. Think of the impact that would have on your team members. And that's just one of many rituals that can be created. Most companies have articulated values, and some have even taken a stab at describing some behaviors, but very few have ritualized their practice. And so the values remain stuck on the wall or on the website, and they never truly become operationalized. Remember that we don't internalize our learning without repetition. Rituals are the key to enabling that repetition to take place by making our practice habitual, rather than relying primarily on our discipline or sheer willpower. Without rituals or habits, nothing lasts long enough to get internalized. So let me summarize the key idea here. If we want to leverage our culture to truly transform our organization, we've got to clearly define the behaviors that drive success, and we've got to create a structured, systematic way to teach and practice those behaviors over and over and over and over again. That's the simple but game-changing power of fundamentals. Of course, transforming your organization sounds pretty lofty. What does that even mean? Check out the next video to learn more.